Instead of trying to change the white man and your mind, make you accept us, we change the mind of the black man and make him accept himself. And as soon as he accepts himself, he'll solve his own problem. He won't be trying to force himself into your factory and into your bedroom and into your kitchen.
With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism, like you got in Africa 9, like you got in Haiti. So what we're talking about is there has to be educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, we are so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party. Why? Because if they don't have an education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You might get people caught up in the emotionalist movement. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be chapless. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
Peace and Black Power families, brother Agyei Tyehimba from Harlem Liberation School, where we teach Black people to wake up, clean up, and stand up, or as we say, Wukusu. Speaking of Wukusu, I hope you copped that book, the latest book I wrote called Wukusu, a self-empowerment handbook. Type my name in on Amazon and it'll come right up. If you want to get it from me personally, then you need to hit me up on email and we'll work out the details. Family, want to thank you, welcome you for coming out. It's been a while since we did a live, but if you've been following the channel, you see we've been busy putting up videos, man. We did at least 3 or 4 videos last week. So we're staying busy, just haven't been as live. I want to say, because we're in election season, and obviously this particular broadcast has something to do with the election season, I want to say that I voted early through the mail, didn't want to get online, didn't want to go through all the mess and stress, because it's a controversial election season. I didn't want to get caught up in that, though I do want to be out there to do some live filming and interviewing of people online waiting to vote to see where their mind's at, what they think about the election and so forth. So my vote and ballot is counted. If you are voting, and you intend to vote, I want to strongly encourage you to do so. I want to strongly encourage you to make sure that you are out there at whatever poll site you're supposed to be at, when you're supposed to be there. On Tuesday, the polls are open usually from early in the morning to maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. Get out there, family, and make your vote count if you're so inclined to go that route of voting. So I just want to say that. I also want to say, see, we have a comment. Hold on. That's Queen B saying, "Wakusa to the family. Thank you for joining us and for helping us to get out and for greeting the people." Okay, family, check this out. Hold on 1 second. Can't seem to get out of that. That's funny. Hold on 1 minute, family. A little bit of glitches going on. Okay. All right. What I want to do is read, or maybe I'll kind of speak from an article that I wrote and I posted today. I have an article called Path to Empowerment, a newsletter rather, on LinkedIn. For those of you who are on LinkedIn, if you're not, then that's all right, because I'll be constantly referencing these articles and some of these lives. Um, I want to start like this. This is the article. In recent years, political apathy and disenchantment with the electoral system have become increasingly common amongst our people in particular. Many people, especially in Black and other marginalized communities, feel disillusioned by the limitations of voting as a path to genuine societal change. And yeah, while voting can be a powerful tool in a society like this one, it's not the only way to influence systems of power, right? So when election time comes, family, you know how people do, particularly those who are older, or in my particular parents' generation, who are involved, who are actually there, actively involved in the civil rights movement. A lot of people feel like, hey, man, a lot of our people were imprisoned, were beaten, and were killed for the right to vote. So how dare you take a position that I'm not going to vote? It's the white man's. And I can understand. I completely empathize with that. You know, I completely empathize with that. On the other hand, there are many of us that feel that it's voting is moot, and having a right means you also have the right to choose how you're going to use your rights or which rights you're going to use at any given time. So I do want to say that to be fair to both sides. You can certainly understand why people who literally fought for something and suffered for something, would take a position that those who refuse to utilize that right in certain ways may be reactionary to them. I can understand that. And hopefully that generation or people who take that position also understand on the flip side that people have been voting for a long time, and we're still complaining about the same things that we were complaining about with the 1963 March on Washington, right? We're still looking at police brutality, mass incarceration, drug addiction, impoverishment, poor medical care. It's the same exact issues that we faced in the 60s, in the 50s, in the 40s, in the 30s. So hopefully people understand that, like most things confronting our people, this is not a simplistic, it's black or white, it's this or that. This is a very complicated and nuanced situation. And it's very important we have the ability mentally to understand people's point of view, even if we thoroughly disagree with it. That's very, very, very important. Because usually, if you got two sides to something, both sides have some type of validity or some type of kernel of truth to their sentiment. So that is very important. So check this out. There's a large segment of black people who are not voting, family. I don't give a damn if you bring Martin Luther King and John Lewis and all of the pioneers, the civil rights pioneers back and beg and plead with them. They're not voting. They're convinced that the voting system is moot and it is nothing but a circus. So now the question becomes, we need to take the position as community organizers who always think ahead. Well, what if people don't vote? What do we have for them? What do we offer them? We say nothing. Oh, well, vote or nothing? No. I'm thinking that for those in our community who choose not to participate in voting, we need to be real clear with them that there are still numerous ways they can contribute to a social political transformation, right? And I wanted to get into 5 of those ways today in this broadcast. Remember, I'm partially reading from an article I wrote today and partially kind of speaking extemporaneously. One of the main, and I want to also say these 5 things I'm going to share are the 5 things black people have been doing from day one. These are tried and true methods that create change. So if I were you, I'd pay close attention, and you probably know this already. And some of you participated in these different forms, right? All right, community organizing. Community organizing remains one of the most effective ways to initiate lasting societal change. So involves things like mobilizing local residents to address shared concerns they have, to demand accountability from some of the local institutions, the leaders, and the political structure, right? And this approach, championed by civil rights legends like Ella Baker, who astounds me to this day, it empowers communities to identify their needs, develop action plans, and work collaboratively to bring about tangible change. Community organizing can address multiple issues at the same time. Things like housing, education, unemployment, prison reform, right? By creating coalitions, raising people's awareness, and implementing these sort of on the ground grassroots solutions. When people are organized and informed via a successful community organizing campaign, those people can leverage their collective power to push for policy changes at the local and state levels, and thereby they can influence the political landscape, even though they may not participate in voting. I'm going to come back to this when I close up because I'm deviating slightly from my political beliefs in this particular election, and I'll tell you why. Number two, economic empowerment and cooperative economics are powerful weapons in our fight for justice and equity. You know, many of our leaders and organizations have emphasized the importance of economic self reliance to lessen our dependency on white folk, if we can be very frank. So, organizations like the Nation of Islam, the UNIA, were very big on having our own businesses, working together. And we have a history in our community of mutual aid societies. These are poor black folk, often illiterate black folk, who put their little nickels and dimes together. There was a bank that a black woman started called the Penny Bank. They started with pennies. People put the very little bit of money they had, but collectively, over time, working together, that money, that interest compounds and it grows into something that you can do real work with. So I want to say that when we support black owned businesses, although that alone ain't gonna free you. I need to be clear. Just going and support all the black people in your community, your family, that's not gonna free you. This capitalism is real, fam. Right? But doing that in addition to creating economic cooperatives where more than one person owns an enterprise. And therefore, because many people have put money in and they have big pools of money, they can go and they can get things in bulk. And because they can get things in bulk, they can now offer serious discounts to the community. And they can also employ people in that community who've invested in that cooperative, right? So supporting black businesses, creating cooperatives, and encouraging investment, shrewd, wise investments within our community. We can strengthen some of our local economy and we can partially reduce our reliance on white people's services and their goods, right? So if you think about buying locally, creating black owned, community oriented credit unions, forming investment clubs that put that money back in the community and create opportunities, it can lead to sustainable economic self sufficiency. It can provide our people with the resources to address their needs and fund their priorities. And most importantly, can do this independent of the government or the government's legislation or the government's money and the government's say so. The ability to move how you want to move and don't have the white man on your back tell you, oh no, you can only spend this amount, you can only do this, you can only hire these type of people. We got to be able to challenge that. Number three, you know, this is close to my heart. Education and self awareness have historically been critical to societal change, especially in Black communities, where these systemic inequalities often create huge educational gaps. Fam. I'm not even going to get into the statistics of where the average fourth grade Black child is reading, where the average fourth to sixth grade Black child is performing in math, the average fourth, sixth, eighth grade Black child performing in reading comprehension. It is dismal and it is demoralizing. And it is not accidental. It is not accidental. Amos Wilson said, for white supremacy to work, our people must be out of their minds. Well, that means we must do things that go against our interests, and it means we must be dysfunctional. We must be unable to function at a high level in this society. It's the only way that we can be oppressed. Right? So when you see all these reading scores low, math low, reading comprehension low, critical thinking skills low, writing low, don't necessarily go out and lambast the kids. Don't necessarily go out and just wholesale blame the parents. Understand that there's a very clear conspiracy. We can't understand, interpret, compare, analyze, contrast, right? Come to good, solid conclusions and come up with solutions. That is purposeful. And if you just know the history, believe it started with the Virginia plantations, uh, that it was illegal for our people who were enslaved to read or write. Just think about why a legislative body would create a law like that. Why didn't they want our people to be able to read and write? And it's the same thing today. It's just that today, the white liberals, who are really the flip side of the white right wing racists, they're the flip side of them. They just couch it under really pretty terms like "no child left behind." Why they leave you way behind? That's that's all they do. They couch it in a way that makes you feel like they're your friend, but they're doing the same things in terms of the outcome and the result as the white southern tobacco spitting rednecks. Don't be confused about that, family. Be very clear, right? So, community workshops, reading groups, study groups, political education centers like Harlem Liberation School can inspire Black people to develop or to rediscover solutions tailored to our needs and our experience and our interests. Education promotes empowerment by dispelling myths, combating misinformation, and arming individuals with knowledge to challenge systemic injustices. Moreover, an informed Black community is better equipped to hold the elected officials accountable, which means even those Black people who say, I'm not voting, they're empowered, right, to challenge and hold elected officials accountable, even though they don't vote. They're empowered to check them because they know what the issues are, what this politician's uh, take is on a particular issue, who or what organization is funding these candidates, what these candidates, who their mentors and teachers were, and their backgrounds, and they're able to check them in ways that uninformed communities cannot, right? So education and self-awareness. Some of you watching this or who will watch this in the later recorded version are actively involved in these things. You'll be like, yeah, Agyei, we know this. Yeah, but a lot of people don't. Some people actually think the only way they can make change is voting, and we do want to dispel that without saying don't vote. We're saying, yeah, voting is one piece, but there's a whole lot of other things that one must do to affect change. Direct action campaigns. Now we get into the nitty gritty. Things like protests, rallies, some would say sit ins and boycotts, disrupt business as usual. They disrupt the status quo and they highlight grievances that might otherwise be ignored. So if you look at the civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s, they used direct action effectively. They forced the government to respond. And when people all over the world saw those Black kids in Birmingham getting beaten and shoved into paddy wagons, or show black women, older women being thrown on the ground, or dogs biting people, right? Or the Selma March, which was terrible visual brutality that people saw on the news. That had a way of galvanizing millions of people in the country and all over the world who weren't aware that things like that were happening to say, nah, that's not cool. And this included white folk, man. Let's be real clear. All white folk ain't down with the racist oppressors. Be very clear. There's some white folk that are very disturbed by the way this government treats Black people, treats some of its own people. And so those direct action things have a way of bringing the media out, getting coverage. People all over the world say, wow, you saw they pepper sprayed that sister? Wow, you saw when they threw that guy to the ground and was stomping him, even though his hands was handcuffed behind his back and he couldn't move. And it politicizes people, it raises awareness, and it mobilizes people to get involved. Right now, some people like myself argue that it was the direct action, the community organizing, the in-your-face rallies, the protests, the building takeovers, and the consequent riots and violence and property damage that moved Lyndon Baines Johnson to sign the Civil Rights Act of 65, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. He didn't do that of his own volition. He did that because he was forced to, because he's looking at this as the president saying, geez, we're in a Cold War. We're combating with the Soviet Union. We're vying for power, right? We each trying to get all these other countries under our political and economic influence. And we're going around telling the world that we're the bastion of freedom and equality. And yet people are seeing on the news that cars being turned up, cars being firebombed, people being shot, hit with police sticks and bitten with dogs, and all this craziness going. So he's forced now to take positions like, wait, we got to stop this property damage. We got to stop cops from being assaulted and shot at if we can keep it real. We got the old white women feeling very defenseless and vulnerable because the Negroes are coming in town and they tearing up everything. They seem to be upset, right? So he commissions a group called the Kerner Commission to study why are these riots happening. Listen to the questions, and you can buy this book on Amazon. Kerner Commission report. It's a thick book, but it's really a report commissioned by Lyndon Baines Johnson. The questions were not, what are Black people upset about? The questions were, why are these riots happening? Who create a profile of the prototypical type of person involved in these riots? And find out the property damage that comes out of these riots, the injuries that come out of these riots, and let's come up with policy proposals to stop these riots. So people like me, as a historian, I would argue, not knocking the vote, saying that the much of the real change that we saw, to any degree that we say there's progress, much of it came out of direct action, family. It came out of people, being in people's faces and challenging them, and community organizing. And it put the country in a position where they say, yo, we got to stop these fires and these riots, and this is crazy. We can't go in the news talking about we A, B, and C, and we're the epitome of freedom. And meanwhile, we got people on TV every other week getting beaten to death, right? So they had to stop that. So it's very important that we understand, beyond the rhetoric, how change actually happens in this country. I can't speak for anywhere else. In this country, that's how change happened. Put fire under their behind to make them go, oh, anything to get rid of this fire, anything to get rid of this negative publicity, anything that won't get in the way of our space race, huh? And our brokering deals with other countries who are looking at us funny. How are you going to come and talk to African people in the continental Africa, and they're saying, what are you doing to our brothers and sisters in the United States? See? You see what happens? So be very clear. Direct action, family. The civil rights movement and Black Power movements combined protests, political education, independent development of independent Black institutions in such a beautiful way that it kind of forced certain legislative and political victories for our people in the 60s and 70s. And so while these type of tactics can be controversial and can get people hurt and imprisoned or killed, they have historically proven to be quite successful in raising awareness, inspiring solidarity, politicizing people that before this was on the sidelines just talking about it. Now they saw what happened to Jimmy Jackson, how he got killed in the South, and they get involved. They're at the next Selma March. Like what? Right? Direct action, therefore, remains a potent tool for those seeking lasting societal transformation outside of the ballot box, per se. Right? And then one last thing, the fifth way that you can affect change, and you're a person who says, I'm not voting, I don't trust them. Okay, I'm not going to try to force you, family, but if that's the hard position you take and nobody's going to convince you otherwise, these are 5 things you can do, right? That you can choose from. And I would say building and sustaining independent media outlets. So when we do this, we have YouTube channels and people on TikTok and people on Instagram and these guerrilla, what we call guerrilla news channels, right? And journalists that are on the scene reporting from a nationalist or pan-Africanist point of view, from an anti-capitalist point of view, from an anti-imperialist point of view, from a power to the people point of view. What happens is we challenge the stale, pale narratives of the traditional media outlets, NBC and CBS and ABC, MSNBC, which is a little more, I guess, liberal than most, or any of these outlets. CNN, we challenge them. They get to choose what the issues are and what they're going to talk about. But when I'm a black on a Harlem Liberation School, they don't choose a damn thing. We choose what the issues will be. We choose what who our target audience is and what the dominant issues of the day are. So it's important that we build a network of independent, black, and pro-black, and nationalist, and pan-Africanist, and anti-imperialist media outlets, a network, right? Newspapers, websites, social media channels. It allows our community to share authentic stories, to report on overlooked issues, and mobilize the courage and motivation, because it takes a lot of those two things to tackle long-standing social problems in our community. This type of media also informs our people on important issues, and it gets them to support. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. Baba Daruba Ben Wahad, you know who he is. If you don't know, look him up. But he was down at the New York City Black Panther Party, co-founder of the Black Liberation Army, 19-year political prisoner, 80 years old now, dealing with some serious health challenges. Upon hearing that, Harlem Liberation School was really hurt to hear that brother Baba Daruba was going through cancer, fourth stage. And so we created a GoFundMe campaign for him. Ask yourself, do you think Fox News would have had a fundraiser for Daruba? MSNBC, CNN? Hell no. Because as a revolutionary, he actually challenged some of the foundational ideas of some of those institutions. They would never support him in that way. But because we're independent and we have love for him and what he's done for our community, right? We were able to set it up and raise over $10,000 for Baba Daruba. So that's just one example. Or we looked at what was going on in Mali and it's escaping me right now. Burkina Faso, what was going on in the French and why that was happening and why the French had standing armies, even though these were supposed to be free, independent African nations. We explained, we got into that. These news outlets aren't covering that, family. They don't care about that. Or we talked about how certain countries are going into Africa and bringing their own workers and treating the African workers, the Jamaican workers, terribly, and investing all this money in Africa for their own ulterior agendas. A lot of people are not going to report that, so we have to do that. And so through these channels, independent, black, militant, radical, revolutionary sort of news outlets, we can influence public opinion. Don't you think that the news is just there and it has no importance? If it had no importance, they wouldn't call it the fourth branch of government unofficially. The media is powerful. It influences public opinion. It raises or modifies political consciousness and therefore creates armies of people who are ready to go out and change public policy. So I will end this by saying, to conclude, voting is important. I am not going to sit and tell you it's not, family. I've been a social studies teacher in middle school for too long to just say, oh, voting is not important. It is important. Of course, there's certain things that have to be in place for that voting to be effective. People have to be politically educated, know why they're voting, who they're voting for, what their platforms are, how to research people's funding and see where they stand on their issues. People should have their own independent agenda and things of that nature, right? Lobbying groups to push their ideas across. When you have those things in place, the voting takes on a lot more effective and powerful sort of note. When you don't have those things in place, you are less of a factor. However, there is a difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, family. And I know. Some say she's not black. I have no idea. I haven't done the woman's DNA. Doesn't really matter. Some say she's not black. Some say she was a prosecutor. She threw all these brothers in jail. Of course, that's what prosecutors do. Prosecutors prosecute people that the police or whoever brought to them as being involved in crime. It's not defending them, I'm just saying that's what prosecutors do, right? Um, we have a lot of critiques of her. I'm not here supporting her. Like, I don't know the woman, don't know her like that, but I do know when your boy was in office, and I remember seeing the news reports of certain people's families being literally torn apart, people being forced back home, families split up. I remember the rhetoric. I remember that a certain president led an violent, armed insurrection in the Capitol. And people got hurt, and a few people got killed. Police officers even got attacked. And I said, wow, number one, if that was black people did that, we all be dead for doing that. It's first thought. Second thought was, wow, this president was actually given a rally and incited that. And when different people in the news and politicians begged him, look, sir, you're the president, please calm them down, he refused. I know that. There's a lot of stuff I don't know about Kamala Harris, but I know that. I saw that, right? And so, and I read Project 2025, every page and its summaries, and Harlem Liberation School did 2 or 3 teach-ins about it. Okay, so I'm not speaking here as some dude just got a little opinion and ain't doing shit about this, family. Be real clear. We were on the front of this issue. Way before a lot of community organizations was talking about doing anything about it, we was talking and educating people. So when people say it's a lesser two evil, people always say that. No, family, listen. Let's be clear. Would you want the devil in office, or would you want Rudy Giuliani in office? Some would say, well, they're both devils. Yeah, but one is the Lord of the underworld, and one is one fake wannabe mayor of New York City who did a lot of damage and is ultra conservative, and we all know, but he ain't. He doesn't quite match up to Lucifer, family. So, regardless of your political ideology, you know where I stand, Pan-African and nationalist. You have to have the ability to see things clearly. You have to be able to not be enslaved by your ideology to the point that that which is supposed to free you and get you to see things clearly and make you agile got you stuck in the political mud. You can't move, or I can't vote because it's the white man. You spend the white man's money though. I can't vote because the white man. Yeah, but you driving the white man's car to work though. I can't vote. You see how we do selectively. You know, we get that white, we pull it out very selectively. Because if we were real about that, we wouldn't be spending his money. None of us would be working at any of his institutions. None of us would be driving his cars, and none of us would be wearing his clothes. So let's keep it real. Be able to see things as they are. This is a pivotal historical moment. These people are so confident. This would be the Heritage Foundation that wrote out this 930-something page playbook, Project 2025, and gave it to Donald Trump. Say, look, if you get elected, your first 180 days of office, this is what you do. Playbook, family. These people are so confident and think so little of you and me that they put that shit on the internet for free for months. And you can get it right now and read the whole thing. That is confident. On one hand, they're confident. On the other hand, they're saying something about us. They're saying something about us. They're saying, we don't care what these niggas, we're going to put it right there. They can read it. They can do YouTube videos. They can be in their churches and synagogues talking about what we do. We don't give a damn. We putting it there for free. That tells you something, family, about how they seeing you. as the type that's going to let your politics get in the way of your reality. Remember, ideologies are ideas and opinions that are formulated to guide political action based on your oppression. And they can be liberating, family, but it can come a time when you can get so caught up, oh no, we nationalists. No, I don't like white. I don't take a shower because I don't like white. So I don't brush my teeth because toothpaste white. We can become caricatures, family. Like really. Yeah, we missed the point. This isn't supposed to make you take positions that harm you in the community. It's supposed to help you elevate. So this means we have to get out of our ideological bubbles sometimes. If you're not voting, who am I to tell you what to do? I'm gonna tell you what. You don't vote, and your boy get back in there, he's gonna bust your ass so crazy that you're gonna have to get involved with at least one of these five things we ran down today. And let me tell you, it's a lot easier to prevent something than it is to deal with something. When you had the chance to stop it, now you're not preventing it. Now you're dealing with what? Firing all these people with executive orders, making sure the only people that work for the government are people that subscribe to his politics, punishing all the people who are against his politics, pardoning all the people involved, for instance, in that insurrection at the Capitol building, or making your medication so high that you can't afford it. People dying because they can't afford their medication, or taking the teeth out of federal the law enforcement of the country, the prosecutorial forces of the country, so you can be discriminated against at your job or in your school, and you can do nothing about it because the president has all the power and the president has taken the teeth out of that. Or these contractors and these corporations doing all this stuff to make money but destroying the environment, and they know that it's destroying the environment. Right now, there's things in place, like the Environmental Protection Agency, that's a watchdog that makes sure people can't do stuff like that without punishment, right? But they're talking about getting rid of all that, putting it under all the authority goes under the president. I mean, what? Just think about what the world would be like if Donald Trump had complete power. Come on, family. I know you nationalists, Pan Africanists. You ain't going. Your blood ain't no blacker than mine. I could tell you that. I got the scars to prove that. But you know what? I'm like, let's make sure he don't get in office. And why are we doing that? If he don't get in office, let's take those next 4 to 8 years and really organize and plan so he can't run amok in our communities. You know, and if we can't see that, if that didn't hit you, I don't know what to tell you. Malcolm said, Malcolm said that we have to be politically wise and mature, right? That we know how to vote. He even said we need our own national black political party. That's another point. Why are we always going to Republicans and Democrats? We can have our own national political party, and we can raise the issues that are important to us, and we can have lobbying groups that work to get our things pushed, and we could be funding our own initiatives, right? So for those of you who aren't going to vote on Tuesday, it's not my place to make you feel bad. You have the right to use your rights or not. That's your right, actually, right? You have the right to say, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to learn to read. I'm not going to fight back. That's your right, too. I'm just telling you, be wise, move with great wisdom, and be tactical and be strategic during these. If he gets in office, it's going to be a lot. With that, family, I want to thank you for joining. We're coming across 40 minutes, a little longer than I wanted. Thank you for your attention. I hope that you share this. I hope that you think seriously about what we said, those 5 different ways that you can affect change. If you stubbornly say, I'm not voting, I don't give a damn what you talking about, Agyei, no problem. But understand there will be consequence. And it will be consequences I don't think we are preparing for if this man gets in office. That's all I'm saying. But in the meantime, still utilize those 5 other things we can do. to fight back, to participate in Black resistance, to build, to study, to organize, to teach and educate and have these news outlets and have our own independent economic cooperative engines and direct action and community organizers. Still do those things, even if you do vote. But if you don't vote, you definitely should be involved in some of those 5 things. With that said, family, peace and Black power. The next time we see each other, it will be probably after the election. I really hope that the orange dude don't win it. Peace and Black power, family. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.